Come and study with Tanzania Institute of Education.
Hello students, welcome to the lesson. Today we are going to discuss about biology, specifically in a Form 4 topic known as growth. Biology is a very broad subject. It covers almost every aspect of living organisms. But today we are going to deal specifically in a Form 4 topic known as growth and development. Also, growth can be defined in many ways depending on which aspect someone wants to talk about. Growth in biology specifically, we say, is a reversible or a permanent increase in size and mass of organism. Growth, say, growth is the irreversible or permanent increase in mass and size of an organism. I think everybody remembers this is one of the characteristics of living organisms. We discussed them since Form 1. One of the characteristics of living organisms is growth, including others like reproduction, nutrition, and so many. But growth, we say, irreversible or a permanent increase in mass and size of an organism. I think all of you know what is mass, what is size, but when it comes to irreversible, some of you may be astonished by the term irreversible. Irreversible means something which just goes forward without turning back. If it is something which can come back, we can say that is reversible. But something which goes just forward without turning back or without returning, we say that is irreversible. But how is growth being brought about? We all know that our nature or our genesis is through cells. We all come from the product of reproduction. Through reproduction, one cell joins with another cell. Reproduction results in the formation of new organism. But every newly produced organism is usually small in size. Every newly produced organism is usually small in size. But with time, the organism increases in size and weight. When we were born, or before we were born, we were just cells. One cell joined with another cell. For instance, in a human being, a sperm joined with an ovum to form a zygote. A sperm joined with an ovum to form a zygote. But for the time being, or as time passed, those cells become multicellular cells. So in multicellular organisms, the increase in size and weight is brought about by the increase in the number or the size of the body cells. So we can say from the reproduction, organism was generated, was formed. Organism was formed, or we can say organism is formed. For instance, we can take a multicellular organisms. Multicellular organisms is made up of number of cells. So multicellular organisms is made up of number of cells, which means as the cell increases, as the number of cells increases, also the growth of organism takes place. As the number of cells increases, various organs are being formed. Growth of an organism increases as the number of cells increases. Why? Because the number of cells brought about or bring about the formation of many organs. For instance, in multicellular organisms, the new cells are formed. But when the new cells are formed, the old cells tend to be killed. Why the old cells tend to be killed? Because every cell has got its own lifespan. I can give an example. For instance, red blood cells tend to live for only 120 days. So when these cells are killed, the new cells must be born so as to continue the life processes, because the main function of the red blood cells is to transport oxygen. So if the old one are replaced or are killed, we must produce another new cells so as the transportation of oxygen to take place, right? So we can say in these cases, where the new cells are formed and the old cells are being killed, we say there is a continuous addition and a continuous decrease in the number of cells. But for the growth to take place, or for the growth to occur, the rate of cell increase must exceed the rate of cell decrease. In order for the growth to take place, the number or the rate of cell increase, I mean those cells which are born, the new cell being produced, the rate of cell increase must exceed or must be higher than the rate of cell decrease. Which means in order for the growth to take place, the number of the new cells being formed must exceed the number of cells which are killed. So when the rate of cells which are reproduced, when the rate of cell increase is higher than the rate of cell decrease, this type or this form of growth is referred as positive growth. So we can say when the rate of cell increase is higher than the rate of cell decrease, this is the growth which is referred to as positive growth. Is positive growth. So what is positive growth? Is a growth which the rate of cell increase is higher than the rate of cell decrease. On the other hand, sometimes the number of cells which increases may be lower than the number of cells which decreases. The number of cells which increase may be lower than the number of cells which decrease. When this condition occurs, this type of growth is referred to as a negative growth. So what is a negative growth? We can say is a growth brought about by a negative growth resulted when the number of cell increase is lower than the number of cell decrease, which means the cells which are killed or the cells which die are so many than the cells which increase or the new cell being produced. When this occurs when somebody gets ill or when somebody is starved for a very long time. Negative growth occurs when somebody is ill or is starved. So when we stay starved for a very long time, the number of cells being produced tend to be very lower than the number of cells which are killed or which are destroyed. Or when we get ill, the number of cells which increase tend to be very lower than the number of cells which decrease. Why? Because during illness, it may involve the cells being fighting against the pathogens, or the effect being produced by the pathogens may bring about the cell decrease. So a negative growth occurs during illness or during starvation. So that is negative and positive growth, which a positive growth occurs when the rate of cell increase becomes higher than the rate of cell decrease. But we can take a note, no matter the negative growth occurs, but an organism cannot resume the size of a newborn baby. No matter a negative growth occurs, which means when the cells, no matter the negative growth occurs, which means when the cell increases is lower than the cell decrease, but organisms cannot resume the size of a newborn baby. This is the reason why we say a growth is irreversible or a permanent increase in mass and size of an organism. I hope you all now get to understand what is meant by a growth, a positive growth, and even a negative growth. So that marks the concept of growth in general. And now let's going to discuss about importances of growth in living organisms. Importances of growth in living organisms. Importances of growth in living organisms. Can someone tell me, what do you think as the importance of growth in living organisms? Because every living organism, whether it is a plant or it's an animal, whether it is unicellular or it is a multicellular organisms, they tend to grow. So what is this important? Why is the growth very important, or why should it be considered as a very important characteristic of living organism? Someone can tell me, what is the importance of growth? The first one, can you mention it? Yes. One of the importance is growth gives rise to different cells. Growth gives rise to different cells. Growth gives rise to different cells. Before we were born, we were just a single cell, maybe a sperm cell and an ovum cell. But later on, the sperm and the ovum fused together to form a zygote, and the zygote divided itself mitotically to form a newborn baby, which is a multicellular. So a life started as a single cell, for example in a human zygote. So growth is one of the way to increase or to raise the different number of cells, to increase the number of cells. One of the importance of growth is it gives rise to number of cells, which these cells perform various functions. Another importance of growth, can you mention it? Oh yes. Another importance, we say, during growth and development, the cell divide and enlarge. The cell tend to divide and enlarge, giving rise to more complex and very elaborate multicellular organisms. So another importance of growth, we say, during growth and development, the cells tend to divide. The cells divide to give rise to a many complex cells. The cell tend to divide and enlarge. Cell divide and enlarge, giving rise to a very complex multicellular organisms. Like a higher plants, like me and you, like a goat, like a cow. So when growth and development takes place, normally the cells tend to divide and tend to enlarge, which gives rise to a very complex multicellular organism. When you say a complex multicellular organisms, which means an organism now is able to fight against diseases, or an organism is now able to adapt to different environments. Okay, another importance of growth, we say growth give rise to to various cells specialized in various functions. Growth gives rise to various cells specialized to perform various functions. For example, red blood cells which transport oxygen or transport respiratory gases. Also white blood cells which fight pathogens. We have also in plants there is guard cells. What's the function of guard cells? Yes, guard cells are involved in the opening and the closing of stomata. We also have palisade cells in the plants which are involved in the process of photosynthesis, a very vital process in plants which leads to the formation of sugar or even starch, or leads to the formation of lipids and even proteins. Okay, we have also another importance. We have also another importance of growth, which is the first one now, which is we say growth enables organism to adapt to different environment. Growth enables organisms to adapt to different environment. A matured organism or a grown organism can live in a very cold regions, can live in a very hot regions, can live in different regions. But why? Because growth brings about formation and division of many cells which goes to perform different function or specialized function in the body, which gives an organism being so complex and it can survive in any environment. The last one is the last importance of growth. We say growth makes organism capable of reproducing. Growth makes organism capable of reproducing. Why we say growth makes organism capable of reproducing? We are only able to produce maybe sperms or ovum for the females when we get grown. A young boy of, let's say, 5 years old or 2 years old is not able to produce sperm. I think you all guys know about it, right? But when we are matured, when we reach the age of 15 or 16 years old or even 17 years old for the others, so now we become able to produce sperms. And the sperms leads to the reproduction of organism, which means the perpetuation of life on Earth, or the increase in the species of the same kind. So that is importance of growth in living organism, from the first one up to the fifth one. So by now, as our topic says, it is a growth and development. As we seen, growth is just a process or irreversible increase in size and mass of an organism. So what is development now? Development. Someone can tell me what is development? Yes, development simply can be defined as refers to the changes in complexity. Refers to the change in the complexity of an organism. You know, as organisms grow, they also tend to develop. And development just refers to the change in the complexity of an organism. How organisms become complex? Because many cells are now formed which make that organism being specialized by these cells which perform various functions. And this organism now is going to live in any environment or performing many functions, or also being able to maybe fighting against diseases and pathogens. So development is just simply, we can define it as a change in the complexity of an organism. Okay, from the concept of development and also from the concept of growth, we are now going to discuss about the types of growth in living organisms. You know, as you all know that different organisms tend to grow differently. The way maybe human beings grow is different from the way plants grow, is different maybe from the way other organisms grow, right? So we have different types of growth in living organisms. Let's discuss one after another. Types of growth. Types of growth. We may have many types of growth, but as far as biology is concerned, we are going to divide these types of growth into four major ones. So we can say we have four. There are four types of growth in living organisms. What are they? We have four types of growth in living organisms. Can you guys mention me one type of growth? I hope you can. The first one? Yes. The first type of growth it is called diffuse growth. It is called diffuse growth. What is diffuse growth? Yes, diffuse growth, we say, is a type of growth whereby growth tends to occur all over the parts of the body. This is the type of growth. The type of growth by which growth occurs all over the body. But someone can be astonished how growth occurs in all over the body. How? And to which organism this type of growth occurs? Diffuse growth, which we say is a growth which occurs or which takes place all over the body. This type of growth takes place, for example, in human being. In human being. Why we say a human being tends to grow all over the body? Because there is no special part which is a very active growth. No special organs where there is active growth. We cannot say that in a human head there is active dividing of cells, and cells tend to enlarge and grow, which brings about the growth of human being. Or we cannot say in human legs, let's say, or in human hands, there is an active growth. The very active dividing cells are found in human hands. We are not so sure, or we cannot just say in human hands there is active growth. That's why we say diffuse growth is a type of growth which occurs all over the body. So we can say every part of human being is involved in the growth of that human being. Another type of growth is called localized growth. Another type of growth is called localized growth. Can someone tell me what is localized growth? Or someone can define the meaning of localized growth? Yes, localized growth, we say, is a type of growth, by which growth occurs in a certain part of the body. Simply, you can say that. In a certain part of the body. E.g., for example, in plants. Why we say plants undergoes localized growth? Because in plants, the active dividing cells are located on the tips of roots and shoots. The active dividing cells in plants, are found on the tips of roots and shoots. Together, the tips of roots and shoots, whereas the active dividing cells are much concentrated, we call them meristem tissues. Meristematic tissues. These are the region where there is a very active dividing cells, which means in roots tips and in shoot tips, the cells tend to enlarge, divide mitotically to form many cells, which bring about the growth of the whole plant. So that's why we call it a localized growth, which means there is a certain region where there is a very high dividing cells. We also have another type of growth, the third one. The third type of growth is called the intermittent growth. It is called the intermittent growth. Somebody can tell me, what is the intermittent growth, and to which organism or which species undergo intermittent growth? Which species undergo intermittent growth, or what is intermittent growth? Someone can tell me what is intermittent growth? We say this is a type of growth, by which we say which occurs in arthropods. It occurs in arthropods. The first, intermittent growth occurs in arthropod. So how is arthropod grow? How arthropods grow? Arthropods normally grow in a series. Growth occurs in a series. We say it occurs in a series of stages called the instars. Arthropod, if you don't know, the species found in an arthropod, for example, insects. So insects tend to grow in a series of stages. Those stages are called instars. The stages are called instars. For instance, an egg become larva. An egg become larva. A larva become pupa, and the pupa become matured organ. So these are the series of stages. The last one is called the isometric. It is called the isometric growth. Isometric growth is the one by which we say is a type of growth whereby all body organs is the one by which all body organs grow at the same rate. All body organs grow at the same rate. This takes place in fish. The rate by which the tail grows is equal to the rate by which the head grows. So it is called isometric growth. So my dear student, this marks the end of our types of growth, and also this marks the end of our session. Thank you so much for being with me by all this time. I think God wishes we shall meet on the next lesson. Here is your teacher, Faraji Liviga. Goodbye.
Study.